Is computer starting now?
Okay. And then we can let everybody in if you want to let everybody in, Kevin.
You bet.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We're going to just give one more moment so everybody can kind of get into the room, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. You're here for the Fall 2023 SAS Coordinator Training. All right, and for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and make sure we are starting on time. So again, thank you for being here for the Fall 2023 Schools for Advanced Studies Coordinator Training. There are most of us actually in the room today, so I'm going to kick off the introductions and then I'm going to hand it off to our director and then we'll kind of introduce ourselves one at a time. My name is Rossiana Force. I am a district specialist. I support Schools for Advanced Studies. I'm at Point for Professional Development and Instructional Technology in our office.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erin Yoshida Ehrman. I'm the Director of Gifted Talented Programs Advanced Learning Options, which includes both GATE and now AVID. So we're so thrilled that you're here joining us this afternoon. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Kilpatrick. I'm a district coordinator and at Point for Region South and all things MISIS and data system. That's it, Karen or Laura.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Laura Interiano. I'm a designated GATE psychologist. I support Schools for Advanced Studies, and you will often hear me on the phones answering the GATE lines. So welcome.
Hi, my name is Sang-Hee Kim. I'm one of the designated GATE psychologists. I support Schools for Advanced Studies. Thank you for coming, everyone.
And then we also have a team member that is not here, that's Carol, and she is also a designated GATE psychologist. In terms of this presentation today, Kevin and I will be presenting. Laura and Sang-Hee are on Q&A in the background, so there is a Q&A bubble if you would like to ask questions during the session. And of course, our director, Erin, she's here to view the presentation and to also make sure everything goes right, and then she may be or maybe not called off to another thing. As you know, all directors are on call for lots of different things, so she'll be in and out, I'm sure, with other meetings and other tasks, but she's here to support us and we thank her for being here today. Before I completely get started, I also would like to let you know that this session is being recorded and it will be available on our website once this training has completed. I wanted to give you a heads up just in case you wanted to ask Q&A at the end that this is being recorded. So welcome SAS coordinators and administrators. Here's our agenda. We're going to do an overview of gifted and talented education in LAUSD. We are going to do this bullet beginning with the end in mind, meaning that we're going to start kind of looking at the annual GATE report components because that is due at the end of the year, but we want to start with that. And also with the understanding that next year we have our big application coming up to renew your SAS designation status. So we're going to talk about that as well. At the end, we're going to give you resources and contact information and allow time for Q&A. I wanted to start us off with one of the superintendent's quotes from his superintendent's address because I think that he had lots of quotes that were very inspirational. He said, "A new school year is upon us, and with that is a renewed opportunity to change the lives of our students, every one of them." And I want to again thank you all for being here and thank you for supporting our students in LAUSD. Just to set the stage of what's going to happen in this hour, it's going to be a fast-paced overview to set the stage for the school year. This training is required for all SAS sites. In addition to the fall 2023 GATE coordinator training on my PLN that is available throughout the month of September. So please make sure that you have completed that as well. You should be in this session if you are a current Schools for Advanced Study coordinator, administrator, or designee. This session is a springboard to other GATE SAS professional development and support opportunities, and we're going to give you that information at the end of the session where you can find those. Topics presented are going to be explored in depth at optional virtual SAS anchor sessions and SAS technical trainings. Our anchor sessions can be found in our Schoology group. Those are posted. There's a calendar in there with all of the anchor sessions. And then the SAS technical trainings, we have flyers for those on our website, as well as you can find them in My PLN. Please remain on mute during this presentation. At the end, we will give you the opportunity for Q&A. And then again, in the background, we have Laura and Sanghi answering those Q&A questions. Might you have them during the presentation in the background? So what is gifted and talented education? The goal of GATE is to identify gifted and talented students, including those from diverse racial, socioeconomic, linguistic, and cultural backgrounds, and provide high-quality differentiated opportunities for learning that meets students' unique abilities and talents. And just like special education, GATE is a service, not a place. And that's also seen as we don't want students to be going to GATE, right? They are getting GATE services within the classroom in their normal classes. It's district policy that all K-12 LAUSD school programs provide GATE services and support, which include equitable gifted talented screening and identification. There's a training on that. GATE clustering, differentiated instruction, GATE professional development, and GATE parent engagement. Each district cost center is required to complete an annual GATE report. And again, that's going to be the focus or the structure of our presentation today. So we're going to kind of talk about what those components are and what they look like for an exemplary GATE, exemplary school such as yourself in the SAS designation. SAS is one of many programming options in LAUSD for gifted talented learners, including but not limited to GATE clustering in all K-12 schools and programs, schools for advanced studies, gifted magnets, highly gifted magnets, and the Conservatory of Fine Arts. We wanted to highlight a few of our successes. So in October of 2011, LAUSD entered a voluntary resolution agreement with the Office of Civil Rights, in which the district agreed to develop a district-wide comprehensive plan to address the disproportionate participation of African American and Latino students in gifted and talented education, and ensure that GATE identification reflects the demographics of the school. So in November of 2019, the case was closed when it was determined that gifted talented programs, advanced learning options had met and exceeded the terms of the agreement. And then there's some evidence in here, and this will be provided to you that you can take a look at. That's including universal screening, our TIP program, increase in identification, and increase in GATE professional development opportunities. And then another success is approximately 22,000 LAUSD parents and educators completed over 45,000 hours of GATE professional development last school year. GATE professional development is required for SAS educators as part of the designation agreement. So Schools for Advanced Studies, as you know, is a designation created to recognize district resident schools for exemplary gifted and talented education implementation. SAS is not a school choice program per se, it's a designation. So when parents call us, which they do a lot of times on the phone, they ask us, what is SAS? And we let them know that it's a designation, that you as a school site reached out to us and said, hey, we are doing GATE identification and programming really, really well. And we took a look at that and we said that, yes, you are, and we designated you as such. SAS sites support the district by providing models for GATE professional development, pilot settings for identification, differentiated instruction and innovation, and demonstration centers to showcase GATE best practices. And at the end of this presentation, I'm actually going to ask you if you would like us to come see that. So that's coming up at the end of the presentation as well. We want to make sure that we are always grounded in LAUSD policies and procedures. So we're going to take a look really quickly at the Los Angeles Unified School District 2022-2026 strategic plan in terms of what pillar or pillars we are in. We are in pillar 1, and this is really our focus of our data. Our measure of success is to increase the district-wide percentage of student identification for gifted talented education programs to 14.8%, which is up from the 12.5% in 2018-2019. And if you take a look at our numbers there below, the 2023-2024 norm day numbers. And thank you, Kevin, so much. Kevin is our data person in the office, and he pulled in our data numbers. We are currently at 14.43%. So we are very, very close to hitting that target. Again, thank you so much, because without you, we would not have all of these identification numbers, and we would not be on track to hitting our target goal. Another pillar that we are in, but we are not directly measuring the success of this LAUSD success measure, only because it's such a broad success measure that really incorporates a lot of the different components or the programs that are available in LAUSD. So LAUSD's measure of success is to increase enrollment in thematic and choice learning options to at least 65%. And notice that Schools for Advanced Studies is just one of many of those different programs that are available. And so what we did is, in terms of that small portion that we're involved in this pillar 4, we have begun to also increase the number of designated SAS sites within the last couple of years to kind of support in this pillar. So we did increase by 4 SAS sites in the 2023-2024 school year. We increased 10 new sites for the 2024-2025 school year. So we went from 133 SAS school sites in the 2022-2023 school year to 147 for the 2024-2025 school year. So how do we achieve these goals together? So how do we make sure that we are moving forward with identification, we're moving forward with continuing our SAS school designations? And here are a couple of reflection questions for your school teams to bring back in terms of reflecting on this practice. I'm going to give you just a second to read these. And as I said earlier, this will be put into a PDF, and you are welcome to utilize this with your school. So I'm going to use this as a resource slide and move forward as we continue the presentation. So we're going into our next agenda item, which is that beginning with the end in mind, thinking about the annual GATE report. So at the end of the year, you're going to turn in your annual GATE report, and we kind of wanted to focus on those, especially because in the 2024-2025 school year, will be the next district-wide application period for SAS designation beginning July 1st, 2026. And that is for all SAS school sites, even if you were designated in the off cycle. So we're going to take a look at the performance targets, and again, brief overviews. If you wanted additional support, please reach out to us if you needed additional support in any of these performance targets. So we're going to look at 1, 2, 3, and 4, identification/verification, instruction and academic achievement of GATE learners, knowledgeable and skilled staff, parent, family, and community engagement. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Kilpatrick. He's going to talk to us about that target 1, identification and verification.
Thank you very much, Rossiana. So as we're reframing our perception of GATE, remember that giftedness and achievement are not synonymous. Our gifted learners come from various diverse racial, socioeconomic, linguistic, and cultural backgrounds. And many gifted learners are able underachieving, twice exceptional, and have complex social emotional needs that impact their academic performance. And all gifted learners must receive differentiated instruction with depth, complexity, novelty, and acceleration, not just more or harder work. And gifted does not mean good or better, nor does it guarantee academic achievement. It's a term that allows students to be identified for services, placements, and supports that meet their unique learning needs. And GATE programs, including Schools for Advanced Studies, are for all gifted learners, not just high achieving students. Next slide. So we're going to talk first with target 1, gifted identification. We're going to talk numbers, which is what I love to do. These are 2 screenshots from a high school that did their GATE last year. As you can see, this data is put in for you, usually around March. And you'll see it in April or May, and you can see your numbers. So if you want your numbers as high as possible, you try to get all your identification done before March. We go with this total school population and we break it down by ethnicity. And then we put the number of identified kids. And then the last two are sometimes gets confusing for people. The first row is gifted ethnicity of total school-wide gifted. So for example, on this, for this example, African-American students make up 5% of all gifted students. Now the next row says gifted ethnicity of total ethnicity, but it also says 16% of African-American students at this school are gifted. So, and if you look at the ethnicity of this, the population of the school, it's 7.3%. So they are overachieving with identification with African-American students. And if you look at the screenshot down below, it asks those questions. Are students in all ethnic subgroups actively screened and referred? And they click yes. And does it gifted identification proportionately reflect the demographics of the school? For African Americans, it's overdone, so it's okay. But for Latino students, 73% of the students in the school are Latino, but only 90% of gifted students are Latino. So they are not proportional in that subgroup. Now, some subgroups are do better than others, and everybody's a little different, and it's never going to be exact, but this is how we look at it. And then when you click these off at the bottom, then you put down your annotations about why those are those numbers at your school. Now, this is just identified students. As an SAS school, you also have access to other numbers of verified students. Let's go to the next slide. And also in that same page, there's a list of referrals, how many referrals you're doing, and which ethnic groups you're doing those referrals. And down below, we put this in last year for the first time. This is kind of tells us where your students are gifted, identified gifted. And you notice the grand total is higher than the number that was total number of identified. That's because several students are identified in more than one way. So they get counted twice in this number. But you can see the big numbers are in high achievement, academic ability, math, academic ability, language, art, and then in intellectual. The one we really want to push is leadership and creative ability. Not many there, and visual and performing arts. So those are things you can look at, especially for secondary school. Next slide. All right, part of doing this as an SAS, this is what only SAS schools do this, is they have to report their numbers of students that are participating in their GATE program. That means identified students and verified students. So you need to report this every year. And you want to make sure this data is to evaluate equitable access to all the GATE programs by ethnicity, language, classification, and geographic location. And this is for students participating within your school boundaries and students residing outside boundaries, the ones that apply to get in. And it must be, hopefully we get it all completed by December 22nd. And without you, there is no SAS data. So we need you guys to see that. Next slide. All right, our participants must meet one of the following criteria. A is easy. They need to be identified by LEUSD in one of those 5 categories: intellectual, high achievement, specific academic ability, creativity, or leadership. Or they meet standardized test score criteria from the most recent year outlined in our brochure. And C, these are the hard ones to find, demonstrate the ability to meet all 4 critical thinking and problem solving skills in their primary language and demonstrate the ability or strong potential. And I mean strong potential to perform 2 years of grade level and academic subjects. They need to explain meanings or relationships among facts, information, and concepts that demonstrate depth and complexity, formulate new ideas or solutions, use alternative methods, and use extensive vocabulary easily and accurately. So we will go over that again as well on those criteria. Next. So students are in any of those 3 and they're at your school, they should be flagged as SAS. And we want to make sure we're ensuring equitable access So please work with your teacher that you flag all the participants in the 4 critical thinking and problem solving skills with thoughtful asset-based consideration for students, especially from underrepresented groups. And it should only be completed for students enrolled at the resident cost center. So students enrolled in other programs on your campus, for example, Magnet, the language, IHP, cannot be flagged SAS, even if they meet the criteria. So gifted students in your Magnet would not be SAS students. And again, the deadline to report this is the latest it's been December 22nd. That's the Friday before we go on the break. Okay, next slide. And there is a memorandum on how to do this. It should be out soon. The old one's there, but the new one should be within the week. And it's found in my LAUSD. Or you can go to our gate office and go to district communications, and that link is always there. And if you need technical support, contact me. There's my email if you need it. And there's lots of Zoom trainings. I already have 3 on there, and people have already signed up, and they're available all throughout the fall. And if we need more, we can add more. Next slide. Okay, some resources and job aids. I go over those in the training, but they're right there in the LAUSD website. You go to MISIS job aid. You can just go to the search bar and type in MISIS job aid. And there's one just for GATE, and there are 2 just for managing SAS. One is for the mass, and the one is for the individual. And those job aids are pretty self-explanatory, and they really help you. Just print them out, sitting down, and you can walk through that when you do this. Next slide. This is a screenshot of what it looks like for mass updates. I don't expect you to, we're not going to go training how to do this right now, but it does show all the students. It automatically finds the students that are identified gifted at your school or test scores. And if the resident status has been established in MISIS, that means that their address has been verified, then that resident status will automatically pop up. If not, then you have to kind of look for it and find out if they really are resident or not. And hopefully we put the start date is the date when you log in, the start date will always be today's date. So whatever date you log in is the start date. And the end date should be the year they matriculate from your school. For example, there's a 3rd grader on the first line, and they matriculate in 5th grade. So June 2022 in this case was when they would have left. Those are done automatically for you. And if you have nobody on this list when you go into mass update, that means you've already flagged all your kids. So the idea is to get this to 0. Now, there may be some exceptions to that. Some kids on that meet test score criteria, parent may not want them in SAS. And we do have some secondary schools that have dual language programs on their campus where those students are in the resident cost center, but are in a different program. So they would still be on this list, even if they're identified gifted and could not be flagged. Next slide. All right, this is the individual screenshot. I have lots of trainings on this. There's actually a curriculum that you can watch an old video of me doing this training. And if you need a refresher, or you can come to my Zoom sessions all in the next 3 months. The individual is the hardest one. You have to work with your teachers at your school and make sure that you're getting all the students that are really eligible. Elementary schools will have the hardest time with kindergarten students. You can start giving the teachers time to get to know their students so they can do a adequate job of evaluating them. So you can wait till the last minute to do those kindergartner students so they can see if they meet those 4 critical thinking areas. And so we do our best to enroll those supportive creative thinkers, students with leadership abilities, underachieving learners, emergent bilingual, standard English learners, twice exceptional learners, students from other targeted populations. So we have to look for all of them. So this is not easy work, but it's good to find those kids, and that would help you with referrals too. Once you start finding these kids, these might be some of the things that you might revert. Okay, next.
Kevin, can I ask a question? This is Amber Willis. I'm at HTPA. What's the difference between the residents and the non-residents? Like, for my school, should they all be non-residents? Do I switch them to resident?
Yeah, because your admission criteria.
Okay. Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right, next slide. All right, the verification process. So when we talk about the verification process, that's basically criteria C. This is used for schools to determine the eligibility of applicants to gifted magnets as well as schools for advanced studies who do not meet identification or score criteria. In addition to students applying for gifted magnet and SAS verification, could also be used in-house, which I talked about, at your site to ensure that all eligible non-identified students, including your resident students, are equally placed in SAS classes, and they are reported in my. Next slide. Now, people say, gifted magnets and SAS, what's the difference? Well, and in some cases they're similar and sometimes they're not. So similarities, eligibility is the same for a gifted magnet or for an SAS. So they all have to meet the same criteria to be eligible to go. Boundaries, only students who reside within OASP boundaries are allowed to go to SAS or gifted magnet. And instruction, all teachers provide differentiated instruction, including depth, complexity, novelty, and acceleration. Gifted magnets and SAS sites share identical eligibility criteria and verification processes. All right, next slide. Now let's look at the differences. Gifted magnets are also based in integration, so they have to follow court-ordered voluntary integration opportunities, and they're just one of many types of magnets that, in this case, they need the gifted highly skilled learners. Schools for advanced studies are demonstration sites. Gifted magnets are continuous as long as they stay gifted magnet, they're a gifted magnet. Our designation is every 5-year cycle, and Marciana alluded to that earlier, that we will be coming onto our 5-year cycle soon. Gifted magnets are grades 1 through 12, although mostly they don't start until 3rd grade. And SAS schools are grades K through 12, and many kindergarten opportunities. Gifted magnets also use priority points in their lottery system, so students have to move up the list to have a better chance of getting in. SAS schools do not have any priority points. Only students residing outside the SAS residential boundaries have to apply, and it's a random unbiased selection process. No priority points. Transportation is possibly available at gifted magnets, not all, but it could be. And there is no transportation for schools for advanced studies students. The instructional professional development, although we highly recommend that all teachers of GATE students do 16 hours a year, it's optional for gifted magnets, but it is required for schools for advanced study sites. And for your information, most gifted magnets all do 16 hours if they do want to follow that one. All right, next slide. All right, this is the timeline for this year. Monday is coming up. That's the day that everybody starts to apply for next year. So we're getting ready at our office to take lots of phone calls from parents going, how do I get in? Which school do I choose? What am I going to do? And we're going to be answering lots of phone calls. You may get more phone calls too. They're going to ask you, why do I want to go to your school? There are lots of things going on. So that is happening on October 2nd, which is next Monday. Opportunities for you in unified enrollment fairs. There's going to be 2 in-person fairs, one for Region North and one for Region South. And then there's 2 Zooms for Region East and West. So you may get involved in that, or may have already been approached to become involved in that so you can market your school. That on-time choices will last for a month and a half. The deadline is November 7th, 2023. Then we will start training all schools in the district about how to do verification training on November 30th. The confirmation correction letters for those on-time applications is going to happen on December 4th. And our online verification process opens on January 8th. So when you come back from winter break, you got 2 weeks to verify your student. And the correction deadline for parents to correct their withdraw their applications is January 19th. We close the online verification process on January 26th. We send out program eligibility letters on February 12th. Some of you know about those when the parents are not eligible. They come back, what did my kid do? Why aren't they eligible? So you've got to be prepared for those. And then the selection process, when we tell the students where they've been selected, which schools they've gotten into, will happen on March 11th. late applications for the next year. So students who didn't do it on time and want to do a late application can do that on February 1st. And the on-time accept decline deadline for selected students will be April 12th, 2024 this year. And this will be posted. So if you ever need those dates, then it is on the encrypted website. Next slide. Okay, verification for eligibility. Gifted magnet and SAS programs must be accessible to all GATE learners, not just students who are currently exceeding academic standards. So all GATE learners. The verification process creates a level playing field, so we provide more equitable eligibility and enrollment. For our non-identified students, we demonstrate the potential for high achievement. All three eligibility criteria carry equal weight in the selection process. And if a student is applying to a new program, for example, changing schools, 5th grade to 6th grade, 8th grade to 12th grade, or matriculating, they have to re-verify. That verification does not last like identification does. And they must be re-verified by their current school of attendance, not their home school, but the school they're actually going to. And this includes all students who've applied for gifted magnet or SAS the previous year, but were verified and not selected. Verification does not roll over from year to year unless the applicant is formally identified as gifted, or if the student remains at the same school. So if you verify them in 2nd grade, they do not have to verify again until they move from 5th grade to 6th grade to changing school. Next slide. All right, the verification process is in the principal portal. Now you can see there I circled school designee form. That is not something that you need to do, but it's something your administrator needs to do. They need to put your name in as the GATE SAS designee, so you have access to all the things you need to have access to in the principal portal. So once they make you the designee in the school designee form, then you have access. You don't apply for it, they just have to assign it to you. As people are assigned to the GATE designee, I automatically put them on the GATE listserv. I have some GATE coordinators that email me back, why am I getting this? I'm not the GATE coordinator. And I look online, I said, well, your principal says you are. So have a conversation with them. So sometimes they surprise people and tell them, by the way, you're going to be our GATE designee and I didn't tell you. So, but if you are the GATE and you need access, make sure your principal assigns you in the designee form. And you can look at that verification eligibility list from last year. It will not update until January next year. And here's a memorandum for online verification. A new one will be coming out soon. Next slide. This is what the eligibility looks like when you go in. This is, for example, at EEC. So these students are applying to go to an SAS. We know it's an SAS because they're applying to go to kindergarten. And there are no gifted magnets for kindergarten. So they're applying to go to an SAS. And the teachers have to go in and they go, yeah, they meet, or no, they don't meet. And that's all you have to do. Once they're done, you submit. It's easy to do it online. It's harder to do. You have to make sure you talk to the teachers, and they actually do meet all those criteria. And in the case of kindergartners, there's also an SAS kindergarten checklist where they must be 10 out of 20 on that kindergarten checklist as well. Next slide. So students that are staying at your school, you can always verify students at your school. And we encourage you to do so, not just SAS side, to use that eligibility criteria to ensure that all gifted high ability students are clustered and provided differentiated instruction. It's best that you use the in-house verification criteria form. It's an online verification for gifted magnet schools for that attachment B. And with that, your teacher can ensure that non-identified students are included when making big clustering and placements. So it's always good towards the end of the year when you're choosing classes and you want to make sure that the students that need to be in the classes that have gate clusters in them and the right teachers are there and the right students are there. But only students who have applied to gifted magnet or SAS will be included on the verification process. So that means they had to have done an on-time application to be in the verification process. Late applications do not go into that system. So it's a one-time deal, on time in the fall, verification in January, selection in the spring. Late applications is a whole different verification process, which you guys do in-house. To ensure equitable access to GATE services, we want all educators to expand their scope of giftedness from GATE identification to GATE participant, which includes both our identified and verified students. Next slide. Okay, there's a screenshot of the attachment B. That's not all of it. It was hard to fit on this slide, but those are forms that you can use in-house. You don't have to, do not send those to us. Those are things you keep in-house. But you have teachers go through that and find the students that could potentially be part of the GATE participation at your SAS school. An updated one will be ready next month, and you use this to verify your GATE students. That's all, includes all students staying at your school and those who have applied through filters for FMSU. Next slide. And I'm going to pass performance target 2 over to Graciana.
Thank you, Kevin. So for performance target 2, I know identification was actually a very large component because it includes identification and verification, which also kind of includes the choices application process. So that's all in identification. And in terms of your annual GATE report, I just wanted to call it out again. I know Kevin mentioned it, that if your identification numbers are not reflecting the demographics of your school, you can also add in your explanation that you also do verification because you're an SAS school. I did work with a couple of SAS schools last year in incorporating that in their narrative for the identification piece, because sometimes it looks disproportional just on the identification, but because you're in a SAS school and you are doing verification as well, you can use those numbers to support the balance of your GATE participation, which is really what is happening at your school site. If you had additional questions on that, again, please contact Kevin or myself to kind of support with that. Going into performance target 2 is instruction and academic achievement of gifted learners or GATE learners. And this is where that narrative comes in about what you're doing at your school site. So in the annual GATE report, and I pulled this from the rubric for the annual GATE report, I kind of put a couple of them together. But SAS exemplary instructional models address distinctly how they provide depth, complexity, novelty, and acceleration at each grade level or within each subject area. SAS exemplary instructional models contain a well-developed plan to address the specific socio-emotional needs of gifted learners, such as asynchrony, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, etc., as well as innovative and novel practices that build 21st century competencies for gifted learners. So again, that comes straight from the rubric for the annual GATE report. So I want to kind of take a look at like what are some of those instructional ideas that you can for gifted education that you can utilize in your narrative. And to further build coherence in our district, we wanted to also align them with the teaching and learning framework because that's what our educators are using in the classroom. So we're going to look at the teaching and learning framework focus elements and how gifted instruction fits into them so that this can support in writing that narrative. So the first one is 1B1, awareness of students' skills, knowledge, and language proficiency. So in here, you can talk about accelerated or above grade level content or application of standards, curriculum compacting, tiered lessons, future-ready skills and instructional technology, independent study, interest-based learning and student choice centers, learning and interest centers, and novel products. In 3A4, the use of academic language, and I put in a quote here from the teaching and learning framework to kind of tie in where these instructional strategies came from in conjunction to that, because it wasn't completely clear in just the use of academic language. So in the teaching and learning framework, it states that teachers and students connect the academic language to the students' culture and language. So in terms of gifted education and instruction, that's prompts of depth and complexity in terms of language of the discipline with that academic language. And then in terms of culture and language, the socio-emotional needs of gifted learners can be expressed here, as well as the Bloom's-Banks matrix that connects Bloom's with cultural relevancy to students. In the focus element 3B2, discussion techniques and student participation, I put in there again, a quote from the Teaching and Learning Framework. Teacher uses intentional, differentiated strategies to engage all students in intellectually challenging student-to-student discussions. And that can be pulled in with the teacher using prompts of depth and complexity, students using prompts of depth and complexity in their discussions. And then, of course, also the new prompts of depth and complexity, which I put here on the screen. So using those to elicit discussions with students as well as student participation. In 3C1, standards-based projects, activities, and assignments, we have project-based learning, Bloom's taxonomy at the higher levels, and analyze, evaluate, create. The DOK higher levels, level 3, strategic thinking, and level 4, extended thinking. And then at the content imperatives. So with that, because we talked about all of these different instructional strategies with gifted education, we wanted to also tie that into knowledgeable and skilled staff. So if we're asking our teachers to be able to be skilled in gifted education, and so that you can write that narrative to support what is going on in the classroom, we wanted to make sure that we also have the professional development that goes with it to support teachers in implementing those instructional strategies. So effective implementation of all GATE SAS program components starts with GATE-specific professional development. Gifted Talented Programs Advanced Learning Options offers a variety of GATE professional development options to meet the needs and interests of educators. So it's not about compliance or getting hours, it's really about making sure that we are supporting the needs of our gifted learners. Ongoing and meaningful GATE professional development is essential to assure that SAS educators have the mindset, tools, and research-based practices to understand and address the unique and often misunderstood characteristics and academic socio-emotional needs of gifted learners from diverse backgrounds, including underrepresented groups. So it is a very specific skill set that teachers should be able to obtain in order to support our gifted learners. The GATE professional development that's offered by our office goes beyond just good teaching to nuanced and complex topics that impact our GATE students, families, and educators in Los Angeles Unified. And again, you saw that called out in terms of how they relate to the teaching and learning framework. The district recommendation for GATE teachers is 16 hours of GATE-specific professional development annually and 4 hours for administrators, but participation is required for SAS teachers and administrators per the SAS designation agreement. So to become a designated SAS site, obviously we want to make sure that our teachers are up to date on current research and practices, and therefore for that designation, you are completing those hours to make sure that you stay an exemplary practice model for GATE instruction. GATE professional development may be obtained through training or field work. Professional development records should be maintained by GATE SAS teachers and administrators for 3 years. And the training and field work, that's of those 16 hours, 8 hours can be field work. Gifted Talented Programs offers a variety of GATE professional development options, and the registration is available on MyPLN for all of our trainings. And then you can visit our professional development website to also get our GATE training. We have the fall GATE professional development overview as well, and I put a tiny URL in there for you. That's an interactive document, so things are moving and you can click on it. There's multiple pages, but it's really a kind of a summary, a beautiful summary of what our website has to offer. And in addition to trainings, teachers may also participate in, like I said, 8 hours of fieldwork, and that's GATE lesson observations, differentiated planning, or professional book or discussion groups on GATE specific topics. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kevin to talk about our last performance target, number 4.
Oh, we're almost at the end. Yay. Performance target 4, parent, family, and community engagement. Gifted and Talented Programs values parents and families as an integral part of our children's education. All right. As an SAS school, and any school, you should schedule a minimum of 2 GATE parent meetings annually, usually one in the fall and one in the spring. They can be standalone meetings, or they can be part of a larger meeting at school, back to school night, open house, etc. Be sure to include how your school differentiates for gifted learners. create parent sign-ins, meeting flyers, agendas, evaluations, and you can use that for your school to evaluate PD and determine additional parents, and this will all go in as evidence in your gate report and your designation as SAS. Next slide. We have lots of resources on our website. If you go down to parent support resources and educators corner, there's some links of parent meeting, how to do it, a fall gate parent meeting. We even have slides already done for you. Fall gate parent meeting in Espanol, so you can do that one as well. There's an online workshop link for parents, and there's some parent feedback forms for you to use. So those are all available at any time you would like to use those and modify them as you need. Next slide. Also, there's one under the, you go under families, there's gate resources for families, and there's some videos. And if you do a Zoom meeting for your gate parents, you can run this video, Gate 101 video in English, Spanish. And there's some slides in English and Spanish. There's lots of other different videos you can watch, and you can share this with your families or use it part of your meeting or a combination thereof. So there are lots of resources for you and your family. Next slide. So here's a quick guide to all the support you need online. MISIS, that's for gate identification and SAS reporting. You must have gate manager status in MISIS. You have to apply for that on One Access, and it is approved by your principal. Principal's portal for the annual gate report, online verification, unified enrollment, and SAS portal. That is given to you by the principal when you are assigned as the school gate SAS designee. That's how you gain access to that site. My PLN, Rossiana showed you lots of gate professional development. This course here, all those things are right there. You type in gate and you'll get lots of spots to look at. There's lots of different things, and we're already always updating it and trying to add new things in there for you. Schoology, we do have groups where we post updates. There's a gate SAS group. Then we put SAS resources. That attachment B would be in there. The slide deck for this might be there soon. We have anchor sessions we do once a month. So those are all available in the Schoology group. Our website, I already showed you samples of there, all the great resources we have on our website. And as you notice, it doesn't say lusd.net anymore. It says lusd.org. And those are all changing for everybody. Check Educators Corner and District Communications, specifically if you are the coordinator. And then unified enrollment choices, there's choices application, verification forms, and a school search tool. That search tool became brand new today. And I think your principals have access to update their school's information. So if they want to put more stuff about your SAS, etc. in there, they are welcome to do so. When I receive the job aids, they can come out soon. I will send them your way. So you guys can make changes on that search tool. So when parents are using that search tool, they will find you as the SAS school of their choice. Next slide. All right, how do we sustain ourselves in schools for advanced studies? Maintaining a high quality gate program at an SAS site is hard work, especially if you're a classroom teacher, which a lot of you are. There's some tips to help you sustain and stay motivated and organized. Establish a team with exemplary gate implementation, an administrator, coordinator, counselor, and other gate teachers. Set up a meeting schedule with the gate SAS team to discuss your program implementation. For example, gate PD and budget. Gate PD should be happening now, so you're not fighting with your teachers in May or June. Saying, where's your hours? Create a system for collecting and organizing your gate SAS records, because you're going to need all that to put in your binder. So get a big box and a binder or a folder, and you put all that information, parent sign-ins, PD certificates, unified enrollment agendas, going, all those different things that you do as an SAS. And plan ahead. If you leave your position, because we have a high turnover for SAS and gate coordinators all over the district, make sure you have something to hand off to the next person. Say, you just don't leave them hanging. Say, good luck and bye. You want to hand them something like, this is what we've got going on here. And some of you have had some really good predecessors that set you up really well, and others of you not so much. So think about how you would like to be, if you were coming new into this position, how would you like to get the information about how to do it. And make sure you incorporate the interests, passions, and curiosities of the staff and students in your project. And look for community partnerships, garden club, arts integration, dance teams, journalism, SAS newsletters at school, lots of different things. So those are a lot of things that will help you sustain your program at your school. Next slide. Does your school have really good GATE best practices and instructional exemplars or exciting successes to share? We'd love to know. So if you're interested in gifted talent programs visiting your school, and we can take photos for publications or to be included in our GATE professional development. If you're interested in having leadership conversations surrounding gifted education or how your expertise can support district effort, email Rossiana and we can schedule a school visit. We really want to get out of Beaudry and come visit you at your school site and see what's happening in those schools. Next slide. It's the best slide of all, Q&A. So I already see hands up. We will have this presentation slide deck available for you on our website soon. You can join our group right there if you haven't already done so. We have optional anchor sessions, and the next one's coming up in October, I guess in 17th, Rossiana, but I could be wrong. And we'll put Zoom links in and we'll send reminders to you. So we will send lots of emails and stuff like that. So, Rossiana, you want to take hands up?
Yep, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so that we can.
Jessica goes first.
Renee.
Jessica.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm the GATE coordinator at Topeka Elementary, Northridge. I just have one question, one comment. My first question is for GATE professional development. Are we still going to have those